The wait for Reach's return is still very real, but while that countdown continues, Alan Ritchson is stepping into something completely different. And honestly, it's not the kind of role most people would have predicted next. Before we begin, would you please support me? Subscribing is free and very important to me. Please subscribe for better analysis and more videos. Instead of another grounded, brute force action hero, Ritchson is heading straight into skiffy territory with War Machine, a Netflix original that blends military realism with a full-scale extraterrestrial threat. From the first moments of the trailer, it's clear this isn't trying to be subtle. It's loud, physical, and built around escalation, and that alone makes it interesting. War Machine is directed by Patrick Hughes, a filmmaker known for high-energy, crowd-pleasing action like The Expendables 3 and The Hitman's Bodyguard. Here, Hughes takes that same kinetic style and drops it into a very different playground. Ritchson plays a US Army soldier working within an elite training pipeline designed to identify candidates capable of becoming Army Rangers. The film opens in a familiar place: grueling physical tests, psychological pressure, authority figures watching every mistake. It's the kind of setup we've seen countless times in military thrillers. Then the situation breaks. During a large-scale training exercise in a mountainous region, the group encounters something no one prepared them for: an alien threat. Not theoretical, not distant, right there in front of them. And from that point on, the film stops being about training and starts being about survival. Netflix released the official trailer just over a month before the film's March 6th premiere, and the preview wastes no time setting expectations. Ritchson's character and his fellow Rangers and trainees are visibly shaken as the reality of what they're facing becomes clear. The threat isn't just overwhelming, it's unknown, and that uncertainty becomes the engine driving the film forward. What stands out immediately is the scale. War Machine doesn't feel like a contained sci-fi experiment. It feels big. Explosions, heavy weaponry, tactical movement, the kind of production that aims to sit comfortably alongside Netflix's larger action releases. The cast reinforces that ambition. Alongside Ritchson, the film features Dennis Quaid, Stephen James, Jack Courtney, Esai Morales, Kainan Lonsdale, and Daniel Weber. It's a lineup that blends genre veterans with performers who know how to sell intensity without overplaying it. Patrick Hughes doesn't just direct here, he also CO writes and produces the film alongside frequent collaborators James Beaufort, Todd Lieberman, and Alexander Young. That consistency matters. Hughes knows exactly what kind of movie he's making, and the trailer suggests there's no hesitation about leaning into spectacle. For Alan Ritchson, War Machine arrives at a particularly interesting moment. This marks his first collaboration with Netflix in nearly a decade. The last time he appeared on the platform was in Black Mirror during the Season 3 episode Nosedive. Since then, his career trajectory has shifted dramatically. Ritchson became a breakout star for Prime Video through Reacher, redefining how audiences see him as a leading man. He followed that with action comedy work like Playdate and returned to the DC television universe as Hawk in Titans and the broader Arrowverse. War Machine also represents his first true return to science fiction in roughly 10 years. Early in his career, Ritchson dipped into the genre with projects like the live-action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles films and The Hunger Games: Catching Fire. He's spoken openly in the past about mixed experiences on those productions. His last full sci-fi feature was Laser Team, another alien invasion story set in a small-town environment. War Machine feels like a deliberate reset. This isn't comedic. It isn't tongue-in-cheek. The trailer presents a darker tone, emphasizing confusion, fear, and the psychological cost of confronting something humanity doesn't understand. If you're expecting jokes to break the tension, this doesn't look like that kind of film. Visually, the action suggests a budget and ambition closer to Netflix's recent large-scale projects. Comparisons to Atlas feel appropriate, at least in terms of scope and intent. Hughes clearly wants to deliver something that feels cinematic, not disposable. There's also an intriguing element hinted at near the end of the trailer, a mysterious robotic presence tied to the alien threat. Its origins aren't explained, but its presence suggests that War Machine isn't just about brute force. There's a layer of mystery baked into the chaos. That combination might be key. Patrick Hughes hasn't made a film this overtly dramatic since his early neo-western thriller Red Hill. If War Machine manages to balance emotional stakes with large-scale action, it could stand out in Netflix's increasingly crowded action lineup. And that's the real question. Is this just another loud sci-fi action movie, or is it something that actually sticks? Does Richen's physical presence and growing star power elevate the material, or does the spectacle overpower everything else? If you found yourself wondering that while watching the trailer, you're not alone. And if you caught yourself replaying certain shots just to catch more details, that's exactly what Netflix is hoping for. I'll be watching closely to see how War Machine lands when it hits the platform on March 6th. And if you've made it this far, there's a good chance you'll be checking it out too. Until next time, keep an eye on the projects that look familiar at first glance. They're often the ones hiding the biggest surprises. I'll see you in the next breakdown.